Welcome back to another top of the list review. And we felt, in honor of Shark Week, there was no better film to review than the greatest film to feature a shark all time. Of course, we are talking about the Steven Spielberg masterpiece, Jaws.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. We had the idea. I think I saw an ad on Instagram that it was Shark Week this week. And do you ever participate in watching anything on Shark Week, Ryan, or just Jaws?
I I have not participated in anything Shark Week esque. Not I don't mind sharks. My family big scuba divers, so I used to grow up, going snorkeling with them and seeing sharks in person, but never been a big fan of watching them on TV.
Right on. Well, I mean, we gotta love watching at least Jaws on TV, right? Because
That is TV, Netflix, Hulu. I think it's on Hulu right now.
is it?
Where,
I watched it on HBO.
okay, yeah, wherever I can find it, I
Yeah.
cannot get enough of this film easily. I can't even wait, to start the show. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. This is easily one of the greatest pieces of cinema all time.
Yeah, absolutely. Directed by Steven Spielberg, and he's created some of the greatest movies of all time. We just wanted to break down this one for, what we like about this one, what makes it such a classic, why it's one of the best of all time, just in the spirit of Shark Week. And, like we said, you can watch it on streaming. And just want to take a second here to kind of talk about how we kind of wanted to start framing the show, Ryan. I know you and I discussed this earlier. We wanted to start framing top of the list as, on Netflix, they have the section where it's my list. Hulu has my stuff. Amazon Prime is watch list. They all have some sort of list where you could save the stuff you want to watch later. So basically what we want to do on top of the list, in addition to our reviews, in addition to our regular listings of what movies we like the most in a certain series, we just kind of want to make sure that we had these reviews up where we can recommend what we want you guys to put on your list so you can always have it available to watch. You don't want to just put stuff that you're not going to enjoy on your list. You want to have a few recommendations that you're going to enjoy, and Jaws is easily one of those, a 10 out of 10 for both Ryan and myself. One of the greatest of all time, and it came out in 1975, if I'm correct.
Yep,
And
that is correct.
this was Steven Spielberg's, not his debut film, but his debut big budget film, right?
Yeah,
He'd made a TV film before that I have not seen. I need to check it out. I think that was called, can't
I can get it
remember.
for you.
Okay, yeah, if you can look that up, it was a TV film, but I've always wanted to check that out. It's about
Yeah,
like a truck driver or something like that.
so he did the Sugarland Express.
After that.
So Jaws came after that. Before that was Duel.
Duel, that's what I'm thinking of.
Okay,
That was his
got it,
really
yeah.
debut. That was his real
Got
debut.
it. Yeah,
was
Duel was 1971, and that's a short film.
Right.
I believe it's only 20 minutes. Oh no, I beg your pardon. It's an hour long. And then followed by Sugarland Express, and then Jaws, which was, of course, his first blockbuster made with Universal Pictures.
And pretty much the first blockbuster. I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan. I mean, this was the first one, as far as from what I've read and understood, this is the first movie that started the term blockbuster, because literally people were lined up all the way down the block outside the theater doors to go and see this film because it was so incredible.
Well, not only that, but it also was one of the first ever summer blockbusters, and that was completely done by accident. There were so many technical issues they had, primarily with the mechanical shark, that this film, which was originally scheduled, I believe, to come out around Christmas time, which was, traditionally a big time for movies, find a way to stay inside, stay warm, was delayed all the way until summer. And this sort of kicked off the idea of a summer, not just a blockbuster film, but a summer blockbuster film as well.
Right. And you know what? I think you brought up one of the biggest things that I love from behind the scenes in this movie, the shark not working. And, sometimes that could be detrimental to the production and, having the director pulling his hairs out and all the set designers pull his hairs out. But in this film, it actually is an advantage because you don't see the shark for a very long, big portion of this movie.
Yes,
And
the suspense in this film is incredible.
That's what builds the suspense, is that you don't see the shark until like the latter half of this film. You get to see it in its full glory, and it's so incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, with all the, I'm sure it was a ton of, hard work and, shots and reshots and re-engineering the shark. I know one of the favorite stories with anyone who's gone to Universal Studios has heard this one. The original shark is still at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean because they tested the shark at Universal Studios in in fresh water and then got it out to Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts and threw it in the ocean, not realizing that the salt water would mess with the gears and the computer work, and it just sunk.
Right.
But, I think with all, the painstakingness that went into this film, it's all worth it. I mean, this is such a brilliant film. So many, it's iconic. That's the word I would use. I mean, from even, the soundtrack and how amazing that soundtrack, which is 2 notes played on a tuba, is iconic, now synonymous with anything having to do with sharks.
Yeah, so I think that's great. Let's start breaking this movie down. We're going to take the next 15 minutes and just break it down piece by piece, starting with the score. Like you said, Ryan, John Williams, the master himself. I mean, come on. One of the most suspenseful scores in all of cinema. Is this one of your top 5 favorites of his scores, or what do you think, Ryan?
So because of its simplicity, I don't know if I can put it, I put it top 5. I wouldn't put it with, like an E.T. I think that's iconic. I love the E.T. score, or a Star Wars or an Indy, but it's, I put it there, maybe Back to the Future and then Jaws.
Yeah.
On screen, though, paired with the cinematography, the suspense, not seeing the shark. I'll take you even through the first scene where we don't see the shark. We're almost following the camera is the point of view of the shark, attacking that swimmer in the ocean. Paired with the score, incredible.
So suspenseful, so intense.
Yes.
And this, maybe you could double check this. This is a rated R film or a PG-13 film? It was before PG-13.
Right. So my guess would be, I mean, it's graphic. This would have to be an R-rated film, especially for 1975.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone had seen the film. You'll be afraid to go into water. And okay, so this is another reason why I think this one's a classic, Ryan. And did you find out if it's rated R?
It looks like yes, it was rated R.
Okay, so this is kind of why I think this one's a classic. I watched this one for the first time when I was like in my teen years. I want to say maybe 12, 13, around then. And it was one of those films my parents said, you can watch this one. It's old. It might be a little hokey. But even after seeing, some really, scary films with CG, this film is scarier than some of the CG horror films that we have available today, just because of the excellent craftsmanship on display. There's a lot of movies that try to imitate this one, and none live up to what this one accomplished. And I kind of want to ask you, Ryan, why? I don't know if you've seen any other shark movies. I know I've seen maybe 1 or 2 other ones that are kind of similar, but nothing lives up to this. And why do you think that is?
I mean, so I haven't seen many other shark films simply because I don't think anything will compare to this. This is the original. Anything that is done in any other shark film, I mean, maybe with the graphics, they're gonna push the limits. It's gonna be more gory. You're gonna have more looks at the shark. But anything that's done in those films is inspired by Jaws and therefore cannot be as magnificent as Jaws is.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with you on that. So I think we broke down that much of it, but I think we haven't touched on, I want you to talk about the performances in this movie. Yep. I mean, come on. We got to talk about all the 3 main characters.
Yep. So one of the greatest casted movies I have ever seen. I mean, this movie is amazing. Roy Scheider, of course, our star as Chief Brody. Yep. Then we have Robert Shaw as well as our shark hunter. And why am I blanking on his name?
Quint.
Quint. Thank you. And then, of course, Richard Dreyfuss as Brody. Probably my favorite character. I love Brody.
Well, wait. Chief Brody. Wait, who are you talking about? Chief Brody or Richard Dreyfuss is
Hooper.
Hooper, yeah.
Yes.
Hooper.
Yes. And he is my favorite character. I love Hooper in this film. He's just so passionate. What a performance by Richard Dreyfuss. I think all 3 of these gentlemen are incredible in this film, but I love Dreyfuss's performance from the first moment we see him. I love when he's at it's the corner, right? And he's looking at the body and he's just so disgusted by Brody that he had it written off that it was a boating accident. This wasn't a boating accident. This was a shark attack. And he's like splashing the water.
He's splashing the water on his face, and like he's talking into the mic, and he's like describing the body and everything. And then like Brody takes out a cigarette to try to smoke it, and he says, "Don't smoke in this room." And he points right at him. It's just so intense. You're like, "Oh my gosh."
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, you say that I'm sorry, Richard Dreyfuss is
Richard
your
Dreyfuss,
favorite in
yes.
this. I love Chief Brody, but to me, a legendary, one of the top 10 performances of all time, Robert Shaw as Quint in this movie. He embodies this character so well, and it is so incredible to watch him. Every second he comes on screen, he steals the scene.
Yeah, you're right. I think he is incredible in this film too. Maybe I don't know. I connect with Hooper maybe a little bit more with Richard Dreyfuss's character, just because he's kind of more the logical thinking one of the group, and that's why my one knock that I give, not so much for Robert Shaw, just the way that the character is written, I think is a little bit illogical, and it drives me crazy. Like the scene where he destroys the radio, I never understood that.
So, you know, I never understood that as a kid, but then I just watched it recently, and then today, of course, I watched it looking to see what, you know, this character brings. Why is it so legendary? It's my dad's favorite character. This is one of the reasons he showed me this movie. He's like, check this out. Robert Shaw is so incredible in this movie, and I agreed with him.
Yeah.
And it's because, you know, there's a lot of little things that point to it, and mostly it's because of his tenure on the SS
The Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. Yeah, the
Yes.
Indianapolis.
Which we'll circle back there. Let's. I want to talk about that later. So let's circle back to that.
Okay, you know what? Let's stop right here then, and let's just go through. I want to go through a few moments that are iconic.
I feel like every single second of this film is iconic. I know we wanted to keep this one like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But man, I was, rewatching this and prepping for this. I don't know I can, circle, but just 4 or 5 scenes, because there's so many iconic lines, scenes, powerful scenes. So I'm gonna let you drive here, and I'll just chime in. You choose the scenes you want to talk about.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I have a few I definitely want to talk about. I mean,
go right ahead. Yeah.
So I'm just kind of running through the movie in my mind right now, trying to do that to my best ability. And the opening is incredible.
Yes.
I love like all the big scenes. The first scene on the beach after they discover the girl's body, and he's kind of weary about everything. Should we close the beach? And he's waiting there, and then the boy dies. That's an incredible scene. We get probably one of the most famous shots in cinema, the zoom in vertigo shot that Hitchcock kind of made famous.
Yes.
And him on the beach, and then he's just running, and gosh, does he sell it in his face. I mean, you don't even see the shark, and you just see the fear in his eyes in this scene.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot on this show. How much acting is beyond just delivery of lines, and the body language too, and the emotions. And truly Roy Scheider captures this as Chief Brody, especially in that scene. But you also see it, when he's on the Orca, right? That's the name of the boat.
The Orca, yeah.
When he first sees the shark, that's another great cinematography.
That's one of the best reveals in movie history. Mm-hmm. Like, it's up there with the first time you see Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
He's like, "How about you guys shovel this chum?" And then they just kind of stumbles backwards.
Mm-hmm. But I also wanted to bring just one other thing while we were talking about that scene on the beach.
Okay.
Who our true villain is in this film, and I think that's what makes this film kind of different too. Our villain is really our mayor, Murray Hamilton, I believe is the actor's name, and the mayor of Amity Island, and consistently trying to cover this up. It sort of is one of the first films I would say that I could think of that shows us that maybe the government isn't in the best interest of protecting the people, which is what it is. And he's so worried about tourism that he doesn't even care that this shark who has already eaten one, I don't know if it's established if she's a tourist or a citizen of Amity Island, but already killed one. Then it kills the boy. I mean, he's really our villain here. The shark is doing what sharks do.
Yeah, and it's all set up by a lot of great establishing of this town. It's a close-knit town. A lot of shots of him going through this. There's lots of shots of Chief Brody going through the town, and everybody's trying to get his attention. Everybody needs him for something. Everybody's saying, "Oh, Chief Brody, what about this? I need you to get these guys. These 2 hooligans are parked in front of my house. I can't deal with that right now." He's trying to get the shark attack. That just adds to the suspense even more. But there's lots of stuff like that. The town itself, something that Spielberg does really great all the time. It's kind of its own character in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. You are absolutely right there. And definitely though, like I said, some interesting points of view on who our true villain is in this
Hmm.
film. We don't, as much as we want to think Jaws is the villain, he is not. And
Right.
that is, you watch this as a younger person and you don't think that. You think, "Oh, the shark's eating people. He's bad." But, that's not really the case in this film on
Right.
who our true antagonist is.
Right. Yeah. And, then I think we should just kind of get into like some other great moments here. And, one of them has to be, I guess, that first scene. I mean, gosh, there's so, like you said, everything in this movie. I think one of the most intense scenes is, and one of the biggest jump scares in the whole movie is when they go out at night. Hooper convinces Brody to go out on the boat at night,
Hmm.
and he says, "Oh, they find that boat that's been destroyed." And he says, "I got to go in there." And then you're like, "What?" He's going to go in the water. And he goes in the underwater, and he's analyzing the hole in the ship they found wrecked. And he pulls out the shark tooth, and then boom, the dead head comes jumping out,
Mhm.
and that makes me jump out of my seat every time.
No, I mean, yeah, that's what's so great about this film is it utilizes it's not truly a horror film in the traditional sense, but they utilize so many different techniques. I mean, some horror films are known for one great, either their suspense or their monster or their jump scares. This has all of them. It's
Mhm.
crazy. I mean, between the shark, the jump scare, yeah, like you said on the boat, another one, I think a great, sort of a red herring, or when the kids are swimming around with the fin. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Where everyone's on the beach and you're sure that shark's coming at them, but then you do have a shark attack on the other side of the beach in that subsequent scene. So you have that, you have jump scares, you've got, of course, the suspense, these long pauses of no dialogue, just, panning shots, and the score, just
Yeah.
so amazing. Another great jump scare, and have to talk about it. The scene on under the deck of the Orca where they're all comparing scars and singing, and then you hear, first of all, one of the greatest monologues in cinema
Yep.
about the Indianapolis. What, 10,000 men went under, 380 came up. The
Something like
rest
that.
were,
Yeah.
yeah, the rest the Sharks took care of. I
Yeah.
Oh man, it's incredible. Just sends chills down your spine. And then of course, very quickly after that, you have Jaws ramming the boat. A great jump scare because you're lulled into this sense of security on the boat. These are just three men exchanging stories, and then all of
Singing
a sudden you get
songs.
bam. Yeah, that's right. That right when it happens is when they're singing "I Want to Go Home." Right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's the song.
Yeah, dude. That's one of the best parts too. And you mentioned Robert Shaw's Quint in this, and his introduction earlier in the movie too, with the nails on the
Yeah.
chalkboard,
Yeah.
iconic. You know, Another thing that's iconic is, of course, probably the most famous line in cinema history, besides some
Yeah.
of the stuff in Star Wars, besides some of the stuff in Indy, is "We're gonna need a
Yeah.
bigger
We need
boat."
to worry about. And that's right after the chum line scene, correct?
Yeah.
It's a straight shot,
Yeah.
him seeing
Yeah. And
the
he's like,
shark, sort of wide-eyed,
"Yeah,
stumbling back in shock, and he just delivers it
we're gonna need a
perfectly.
bigger boat."
It's not overdone. It's how someone who was truly in fear and shock, you almost feel like the blood leave his body. You see him just frozen there cold as he
Yep.
says it. It's incredible.
Yep, and there's so much other stuff we could talk about in this one, but the ending. I don't know by this point if you haven't seen this, come on, go watch Jaws. But we're gonna talk about the ending for the last 4 or 5 minutes of this episode, and gosh, the ending is pretty freaking amazing. It's
It is.
equally as suspenseful.
So here's what I'm gonna say. I would put the ending sequence of this film starting uh with Hooper going into the shark cage. Would you agree with that?
Yes,
And
yes,
the suspense in that scene where he has the spear, the spear, and he's trying to poison the shark, and the shark's just ramming this shark-proof cage, and you're so scared for him. You're in that cage with him.
edge of
The
your seat.
cinematography, again, incredible. I don't know how much they had before this, how much cinematography they had done with underwater filming, but
Mhm.
it's incredible how they do it here and how they capture it as if you're right there with a mask, in a scuba tank with him.
Yeah,
But, but
absolutely.
But
And
then we
oh
go
yeah,
from
go
there.
ahead.
Yeah, no, you go right ahead.
Oh, okay. And I think I just remembered what you were trying to explain about, some of the decisions Shaw makes and the whole thing with him also that kind of might strike you as strange is him burning up the boat as the shark is chasing them. And they're like, you can't rever that much. You can't rever that much. The engine is already shot to crap.
Hmm.
And he
Yeah.
just rams the boat until the engine explodes and everything's blown. And then the bottom of the boat is like almost submerged underwater. And,
Yeah.
some of those decisions come from, I think there's kind of like, obviously there has to be some sort of comparison to literature I have to make here, and it's kind of
You
that
were gonna,
Moby
yeah.
Dick moment, right?
Yeah, the Captain Ahab, it's Jaws has become his white whale. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think you when you were making that point, that just came to me that it has driven him mad.
And the camera work also kind of references to that because there's that great shot of when he first sees the shark, and you see just the fin out of the water and part of the tail, but then immediately cut to Quint, and you see the look in his eye, and you're like, oh, this is like an interlock between destiny between these two, almost, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I guess my one confusion there in drawing that analogy is this shark hasn't been around for that long. I feel like with Ahab and in literature with Herman Melville, that has been Captain Ahab's destiny. He's known about this white whale and he wants to track it down. So that's where I think that theory may falter a little bit, but I totally see what you're saying and it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. You obviously can't establish that long a period of time on film. This wanted to take place of the events over this one summer in Amity Island. But definitely a great point that you make there.
Yeah, absolutely. We get, like we said, spoilers, but the ending of this movie is really incredible. Of course, we get Hooper. He kind of hides underwater, which some people might say, oh man, come on, he hides underwater. But, Jaws is distracted by what's going on with Chief Brody. And we see Chief Brody, he never gets in the water in this film until the final seconds. He's kind of hanging on to the top of the boat at the
Mm-hmm.
end. And, he has the gun and he puts the barrel in there and he's trying to shoot the
What I will say here, this is as great as we're going to need a bigger boat is the delivery of this final line. I think it's better than we're going to need a bigger boat. Smile, you son of a, and then fires the gun, just boom.
Yeah.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah. And, then Hooper is, back. And I love how they have another thing before we end this episode. I got to say, the little moments in this movie are so incredible. Stuff that only Spielberg can put in this movie. And it's stuff like earlier in the movie when Chief Brody's having dinner with his son and his son is mimicking all the hand movements he makes. And, he's doing everything he has. It's like the little things like that that show that they make the characters more realistic and more deep. And it's also the little moment where, Hooper comes up to Brody and says, Quint, just one word, Quint. And then he just looks at him and says, no. And that's it. Like, there's no more dialogue than that. There's no, oh, he didn't make it. He got eaten. He got sliced in half, nothing like that. It's just no. And that's all you need. And it's just incredible. And the ending, when they swim off, do you remember any of those last lines, Ryan?
Absolutely. Actually, just rewatching it. It's, I used to hate the water, right? Something like that.
Yep.
And then Hooper turns to me and goes, couldn't imagine why.
Yep. That's the best ending to the movie.
Love
Great.
that. But I mean, I think we missed a couple of scenes that I just have to call to the attention because they are fantastic. I love sort of a comedic scene before the Robert Shaw monologue where they're comparing scars. I love Dreyfuss's line where he's showing him his heart and he's talking about his heartthrob. I think that's a hilarious line, cuts the tension really nicely. Once again, begins to lull us into that false sense
and
of
the whole
security.
Let's drink to our legs. And they drink to their legs.
So I think that is a fantastic scene. A truly heartbreaking scene as well. When the mother of the son who's been eaten by the shark, the second to go from the shark attack, where his raft, or I think it's his life vest, just runs up on shore, comes and just slaps Brody because he knew and still let people go on the beach. Granted, we know he was persuaded by the mayor, but she doesn't know that. And it's a heartbreaking scene because this town truly, as you brought to the attention, loved Brody. He was sort of their golden child, protecting them. And, he failed. And you can see that pain in his eyes when she does that. So that's a powerful scene as well. And then, of course, the end of God, I keep forgetting his name. I want to say Flint. What is the name of our shark hunter played by Robert Shaw? Quint, thank you. his ending, a horrific graphic scene. We're watching him, cry out as he is being devoured by this shark alive. What a performance, first of all, by Shaw. And then the way it's captured as well. You have the cuts from, his point of view, the shark trying to kick to stay away from his mouth. And then you cut to his face as the blood is splattering. A tense, dark, truly horrific scene.
So scary.
And well executed, yes.
Yeah, I was just watching it now, and my dad was watching with me, my mom was watching with me, and like we were all like, wow, like you feel it. It's so it's so unnerving. And I think another thing you pointed out was that the mother slaps him across the face, and it's those little tiny bits of dialogue after. Hooper says, is it Hooper, right? Hooper? Did I say that right?
Hooper, yeah.
Yeah, Hooper says to Brody, he says, she's not right, Brody, because she says, it's Chief Brody's fault. And Hooper says, she's not right. And then he just looks at him and says, no, she is. And then walks away. Little things like that just leave a big impact on you.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, unless you have anything else to add, 10 out of 10 for both of us. Recommend you watch it in the spirit of Shark Week. Recommend you add it onto your list if you could find it on. I know I saw it on HBO. Ryan says you could find it on Hulu. Always shows up on Netflix and some other services, but definitely a big recommendation. And we're recording this episode Wednesday night. We're gonna put it up and look forward to our next episode of Top of the List coming at you Friday. We're gonna do Pixar Part 2, going all the way from Cars 2 to the most recent film Onward in the Pixar series. And anything to add here at the end, Ryan?
For anyone, first of all, anyone who hasn't seen Jaws, I hope you haven't watched this far because we have given away just about everything. But for anyone who hasn't seen Jaws, you got to see this movie. Yeah. I know it's a little old and maybe you think, oh, the shark can't look that good. Doesn't matter. This is a masterpiece of cinema.
Still holds up today.
Find a way to watch it. Go see it. It's fantastic. That's all I have to say, definitely. So, unless you have anything else to say, Dom, my name's Ryan Barnett, or RB. You can find me on Instagram at RB_the_SID. Don't forget to like, comment, and give us a follow here on YouTube, or if you're watching on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. Dom, take us out.
Yeah, follow me at Dom Gonzalez 48 on Instagram and Twitter. You can reach me there. You can reach Ryan at his handle. If you ever want to give us a comment, give us some feedback. We'll take any kind of constructive criticism you want to apply to the show. We're always trying to improve, and look forward to the next episode of Top of the List.
See you next week.